Welcome to the Think Big Dentistry Show. I'm Dr. John, and I have my partner in crime, Marilee, with me. And so we're going to talk to you again about Let It Go. How are you, Marilee?
I am so good. I love this topic. I love learning with you, learning from you, Dr. John. So I can't wait to hear what you have to share.
Yeah. Well, we're going to follow up and segue a little bit into what we talked about last time, Marilee, is Let It Go. And, in looking at 2020, I think it's important that we do let it go. We all endured so much in that time. We endured far more than what we actually would ever have thought that we could endure in 1 year. It was amazing. It was remarkable, discouraging, depressing. A lot of people lost hope. They lost purpose. They lost their why. And we're slowly trying to regroup and recuperate that particular component for ourselves. And so Let It Go is the theme that we're looking at. And it's let go of 2020. And you have to do that in order to allow yourself to experience the richness of the future of 2021. It's like the elephant with a huge metal ball and chain around his leg. That's 2020. But we have 2021 sitting out there before us and saying, come on, come on. And what 2021 is telling us is, let it go and let yourself go into 2021. And so, again, with the new year and all, we have a brand new year, a brand new opportunity sitting out there before us. Now, what are we going to do with it? And so
that's the question.
That is a good question, isn't it? What are we going to do with it? Are we going to let the circumstances dictate who we are? Or are we going to dictate the circumstances out there before us and create our own future? And so, again, let it go.
I'm curious. At what point did you ever have any trouble letting go, Dr. John, or is that easy for you to just go, okay, done with it, moving on?
Well, as you know, Marilee, I'm always the world's eternal optimist.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and so I can pretty easily let go of yesterday, and the circumstances in my life where there becomes a real obstacle. I've always gone to my wife, Mary, and said, Mary, we're going to do this. As long as I have my mind and my ability to think and be creative, we're going to work through this and we're going to come out and we're going to win. And so with all of the, there was a big hyphen between there and here in 2020. And so is what we did with that hyphen in between there, that moment of pause. And my mind automatically goes to, okay, here we are. How are we going to recreate tomorrow? And then once we've recreated tomorrow, how are we going to recreate next week, then next month, then the remaining part of the year? And so that's the way I've always approached my practice, and any circumstance, Marilee, that has been presented to me is, how can I make tomorrow a great day?
Such an incredible perspective, because so many of us have that perfectionism, especially in dentistry, where they carry the weight of what didn't go right. And I think you have the exceptional gift of being able to focus on the things that are going well so that you can amplify them.
Yeah. And again, that has been my MO, is always to look at what's going right. We all have a real good sense of what's gone wrong, but then to flip it and not concentrate on what's gone wrong, but the old saying, learn from your mistakes, let it go, and start projecting the future. Because hanging on does absolutely no good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, we talked last week, Marilee, a little bit about some companies that looked at and took 2020 as a great opportunity for them. And we mentioned a couple of them, Apple, Zoom is one of them.
Absolutely.
Amazon, Tesla, and these corporations just blossomed during that time. And there's a reason, because they were forward thinkers and they didn't let the circumstances bog them down. So, in looking at one word that comes to mind, yeah, and again, I do a lot of reading, and I like to go to sources that are great thinkers. And what are they projecting, and what really happened from a psychological uh, demographic perspective in 2020, and then how are we taking those things and putting them into 2021. And so did a lot of reading and coming up with some thoughts and some ideas. And Apple, I will use them as a corporation or company, visionary group of people that through the years have just pivoted and pivoted and pivoted. And Apple started way back, as everybody knows, Mary Lee, by making computers. The two guys,
Yep.
in the garage. I tell my boys, I said, boys, let's get back to the garage. And when I tell them that, they know, okay, Dad wants to sit down and do some thinking with us. And so that's the deal. So we're going to the garage, boys. We're going to the garage. And so they started with a computer. And then things kept progressing, and, obstacles. And again, what they came into was then this little rascal.
Where did you even find that, Dr. John?
I had to dig, Mary Lee.
I figured.
I had to dig to find this. Steve Jobs said, let's put music in everybody's pocket. Let's let them select their own music and put it in their pocket, and let's let them define themselves what they want to listen to. It's like, wow, what an awesome concept. Because up to that point, we just had to listen to what was given to us.
Yes.
And a lot of times you wait from anywhere from 1 to 10 songs before you hear another one that you really like. And that, you just kind of like, ding, 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 ding. Well, we wanted to do every song. So Steve Jobs says, great, we got this for you. And by the way, you can put 4,000 songs on this. We're going, whoa, incredible. So this came out, Mary Lee, of October of 2001.
Wow.
Okay, and shortly.
Okay, in some ways that doesn't sound that long ago to me, but in some ways, man, the world sure has changed in those 19, 20 years. Yeah, October 2001. Wow.
Isn't that something? October 2001.
Yeah.
What else happened in 2001? September 11th.
You're right. Just 1 month. So just
9/11.
1 month after 9/11.
9/11. So 1 month after 9/11, he gave us this gift, which you can look at and say, possibly we used it as a diversion from our life at that point that had been destroyed, from what, again, was normal.
Yes.
Every bit as catastrophic as this COVID thing. In fact, more so, I think, than this COVID for our country.
Oh, I would agree with you on that. Even being on the West Coast, there was something about the country being in mourning during that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were attacked unknowingly prior, caught us off guard, surprise attack, and it devastated us emotionally tremendously. And so we look at what happened with COVID and what's happened recently with the political scene and go, God, this is the most devastating thing we've had in the history of the United States. I'm not sure about that. I'd go back to 9/11 and say that was pretty catastrophic, but we recovered. We pivoted as a nation and we recovered. So the capabilities and the possibilities of the human being are just enormous if we make the choice to do so. So here we are, 2001. It wasn't long. I mean, it was prior to that Steve Jobs made songs available to us that we could download easily to that. So if we go to June of 2007, the iPhone. Now, okay, that that's just 14 years ago, Marilee. Doesn't it seem like we've had the iPhone forever?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you this because my husband was one of those people that stood in line to get an iPhone. Funny enough, he was actually working at Microsoft at the time. But I remember being like so in awe of the fact of we can be at the grocery store and look something up. We can be in the car and get directions to go somewhere because before that it was pretty on MapQuest. But Dr. John, now it's like my brain doesn't work unless I have, yes, it is an essential part of my existence, it feels like, right? So it's so hard to think about what we did before.
Absolutely. And, the iPhone really um, blast us off into a whole different phone and communication aspect and life. It just changed us dramatically again. And part of Steve Jobs' thing was that here's your stylus. Remember?
Yes, I remember the stylus.
We had the old stylus, but now he says you have one stylus with you. Let's use it. So the iPhone really changed again how we communicated with each other. Then the next thing, iPads, April of 2010, which when those came out, we're going, what is this? Well, we took the laptop and we took the large CPU and we put it in something medium sized that had great capabilities for us. So it's kind of like, wow, another great pivot. So in April 2015, another great pivot by Apple.
Oh, okay. I have to admit, I was waiting to hear what that one was. I didn't know what that one was.
The Apple Watch. And since Apple went into the watch business, Marilee, they are the leading watch manufacturer company by 4 times over the closest competitor. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, let's see, in 2019, and I think I shared this in our last podcast, Apple sold $20 billion worth of Apple Watches, the earbuds, and Beats headphones, because they acquired Beats. So those 3 things, $20 billion. Yeah, crazy, huh?
Yes, pretty remarkable.
Pretty remarkable. So Apple, again, being very, very forward thinking, whether you like the company or not, there's a lot of people out there that it's one of the big 4s. And so there's some concerns about it. But the thing that you have to like is their creativity and their ability to, again, pivot with circumstances, but they're creating their future. So then September of 2020, what was the next thing that happened? Well, again, it involved this, but it became your health on your wrist. And so it's like we can gain a fair amount of information about ourselves via our Apple Watch. So that may seem like a fun little thing, but look at the picture. Apple started a few years ago with some health apps. So Apple pivoted into the health and wellness aspect of our lives. And they're not done. There's going to be more things that come out with this Apple Watch that allows us to gain information about our health status to where we can take this from our Apple Watch and we can ping it to our physicians, our cardiologists, our surgeons, and whatever, so that we can have an up to second status of our particular health through our watch. So Apple, and this is the thing, with some of these components that they come out with, you're either first or you're a non-player. It used to be the 80-20 principle, Marilee, where 20% of the population has 80% of the wealth. 20% of the animal kingdom rules the other 80%. That has changed, and it has changed dramatically. And the pandemic changed it
Even
enormously
more so.
to
Yeah.
where it's approaching 1 to 99. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're either a winner or you're not even in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's happening with Apple, is that they're squeezing people with their ingenuity and their creativity with the watches. And there's just absolutely no comparison as to the number of iWatches out there compared to any other watch on people's wrists. And so it is a luxury item, it's a status item, but it's also people that are health and wellness. And the one thing that happened during the pandemic, Marilee, is that people pivoted their thinking to their own personal health and wellness.
And that's what I noticed, is that you're saying September of 2020, Apple saw this obviously as an opportunity. People are concerned. How can we make health as easy, maybe almost fun as well? Does that make sense?
Yep.
How can we do this in a way that it's easy, it's effortless, it's easy to communicate, and in some ways it's almost enjoyable,
It is.
right? To look at your health, to be evaluating your health.
Yes. Yeah, very much. I love it because I pop this one on my wrist when I start to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And I look out there and go, okay, 15 minutes and I burned 150 calories and my heart rate is 110. And so it allows me instantly to look at, do I have my heart rate in the fat burning zone during my workouts? And how long have I worked out and how many calories have I burned? I mean, it's just instantaneous, just right there. And there's no coincidence of September of 2020 when this watch came out. Now, you know that the thought process in this watch had been in the making for a while, but speeding up the process and getting it out immediately in the pandemic time, no mistake. No mistake. So Apple's pivoted. And let's see. As I shared, I think last time, Marilee, that it took 42 years for Apple to reach the annual sales or the value of $1 trillion.
$1 trillion, yes.
And during the pandemic, it took them 1 month to go from 1 trillion to 2 trillion.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Unbelievable, yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And I think that also goes to show that pivoting and being able to let go, not be terribly distracted, and move on, it's what helps to separate that 99 from the 1%.
Uh-huh.
Right? Is being able to move on quickly.
Yeah.
Being able to let go quickly, being able to recognize opportunities quickly, because in every crisis, and I will say in any time, but especially in times of crisis or change, there's a lot of obstacles. There's never more opportunity than in those times, because you see it with companies such as Apple, where their value doubled in the course of a month.
Yeah.
Right. And you see it in the course with people, where some people obviously rise and they make shifts. They let go of the conflict that's happening. They let go of the stress, and they find new ways to move forward, and they reap exponential benefits because of it.
Yeah. Well, as I shared last time, I think in the podcast, Albert Einstein said, in the midst of every crisis, there's an abundance of opportunity that lies ahead in the future. And that is so true. So again, the pandemic crisis, but there's abundance of opportunity. One thing I want to share also is I look at data, I look at information, and my thought is merely, how can this translate down to business? More importantly, how can it translate down to dentistry? And that's what this podcast is about, Think Big Dentistry Show.
Yes.
And so our objective with our listeners and our clients is we want them to be able to create their future and enjoy abundance of success. How can we help them do that and shortcut that success process? And so I'm always looking at, okay, what does this tell me as it relates to this? And so I want to share with you my church. I belong to a church here in Kansas City, and it's the largest Methodist church in the United States and second largest in the world. And every Christmas Eve, um, they have like 5 or 6 services starting the 23rd, going through the
Mhm.
24th. And usually there's an average attendance of about 35, 36,000 people in those times, with about maybe 4 or 5,000 people online. So in 2019, there was that number, about 35,000 with about 4 or 5 online. Now, our Christmas Eve offering, 100% of it goes to 2 areas. One is in Kansas City, half of it goes to Kansas City, where it's serving underprivileged children. And any organization that works with underprivileged children, providing them with beds, books, clothing, backpacks, so that they, on the weekends, they can go home from school with food in their backpack so they can eat on the weekends. Because there's a lot of children, Marilee, that don't have food on the weekends. Their food, the only food they get is the food they get at school. So we do that. And then the other part we send abroad to Africa to help some of the young children over there and do some things. So the Christmas Eve offering in 2019 was 1.42 million. So that was split between Kansas City and Africa. 2020, no attendance in person, but online attendance was 120,000 people. The offering was 2.2 million.
Wow.
So when I heard this, I go, okay, what does this tell me? What does this tell me? And one of the first things is, why such an increase in attendance? One of the things in the pandemic is a lot of people, as we spoke earlier, lost hope, lost their morale, their purpose, their vision, their direction. They became depressed, frustrated, angry. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people lost loved ones due to COVID. So it was a very depressing time. So people were latching on to things that gave them hope, inspiration, motivation, and possibilities for the future. So we're grabbing onto things, and we're getting back to more basics and more things that are more simplistic.
Mhm.
Now, what does the offering tell me? And I'm going, people are willing to give to things that they feel will benefit other people. So we are looking at and looking around as to how we can help our fellow persons. That's what I took from that.
That's a fantastic takeaway, and I hope everybody that's listening and watching is thinking, okay, how can I give back? And how can my practice give back? And how can we help our patients and our community be a part of that?
Correct. Correct. The other part is that people are willing to give to things, organizations, or even to themselves that help themselves create a better future in 2021 and 2020. So the one thing that in my practice that I experienced coming in around the 1st of June, once we got back into the office, is I had people coming in wanting cosmetic dentistry. It's like they were just coming out of the woodwork. It's like, what the heck is happening here? My son Philip, same thing with his implant practice. People were coming out of the woodwork and wanting implant dentistry, full upper and lower arch implant prosthesis and whatever. And it's like, Dad, I don't get it, but I'm not going to complain. And so the thing about it, that continued right on through, and it hasn't stopped. So again, what is this telling us? And so the one thing that a lot of us look for, we developed a high degree of distrust during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And people are looking at how can we regain trust? And so I threw out a thought of, now let's see, it is hyper targeted customer experience. Remember me?
Hyper targeted customer experience. Very targeted. I love it.
Hyper-targeted customer experience. I think that's what people are looking for. In my reading that I've done, and I've done a lot of online reading articles and books, and I think it comes down to that, Marilee, is that people are looking for a hyper wonderful customer experience. They're willing to overlook and not expect perfection, but they want the exceptional hyper-targeted experience.
So when you say hyper-targeted, what do you mean?
I mean, you focus on that patient the minute they walk through that front door like no one's business. You hyper pamper. It's like the first time you held your first newborn, you looked at that thing and thought, man, there's nothing better on the face of the earth other than this little child I have in my arms. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect it, nurture it, grow it, love it, help it become the absolute best human being it can become. And so if we look with our patients as how can I help this patient become the absolute best human being possible, and do this without any regard for any reward at all coming back to me. That's what I'm talking about, hyper-targeted. And so it's looking at how do we create that? And again, you go back to what I think was one of the core things that we lost was trust this last year. So how do we rebuild trust? So one of the books I was reading is one of the key things, Marilee, to a long life and a healthy life, and also preventing dementia and Alzheimer's. Interesting fact, we think that we're developing Alzheimer's when we start to show the symptoms. The research starts that I read with a very gifted neurosurgeon, and all the collaborative research through the years says that Alzheimer's starts at least 20 to 30 years prior to the first little symptom. So their advocation is that you can prevent Alzheimer's and dementia from occurring. Some of it is going to occur no matter what, but you can significantly reduce the progression and the degree with which you have it by doing certain things with your lifestyle. So he says, go back. And so this is, you know what, with people is a number of things that come into it. I won't share them now because that's kind of a long story there. The one thing, Marilee, that boils down to the major number one component is to have a relationship with a significant other that is extremely loving, and you can count on them no matter what.
That is fantastic. That's incredible. I mean, that is incredible.
Isn't it?
Yes.
That has, of all things, you develop that, you are 60% more apt to live longer and not lose this. Interesting, huh?
I think incredible, because I think listening, waiting, not knowing, the thought is, okay, it's a supplement. Okay, it's a mental exercise. But the truth is, it's our quality of relationship, especially those most important relationships.
Yep. And what was interesting, Marilee, is that there is no research at all available, none, that any medications diminish or stop Alzheimer's. Not a single medication. Also, he said supplements, vitamins and whatever, have no effect. It's the foods we eat. So we can get into that. You know, we can go on and on with that. But the main thing was relationships. So then I go back and say, okay, relationships, dentistry, keying in on our relationships with our patients. Just think of the 60% thing there. Let's hold on to that. You build trust with that patient, and you have a relationship where they sense that they can really trust you and count on you. You're going to develop loyalty. You're going to develop a word of mouth marketing system. You're going to develop friendships, and you're going to have a practice that is strong, that has a core fiber to it that can't be broke. And So this tells me also, Marilee, with the other things that people are willing to spend money and invest on things that are important to them and give meaning to their life. This right here. You know,
Huge.
it's a proven fact that you cannot dislike or hate an individual that smiles at you constantly with a very sincere, greeting, enjoying smile. You just can't do it. Interesting, huh?
That is interesting. I actually love that stat. I love that fact,
Yeah.
right? I think that goes to show, first of all, in our interactions, because people might be thinking, okay, so where do I start? And that right there, evaluating ourselves, our teams, and then, as you said, the quality of our interaction with patients, the fact that you're saying, don't just focus, hyper focus on
Yep.
these patients, hyper focus on this interaction, hyper focus on understanding their wants, their desires. That's where it starts.
That is. And that comes down to having it doesn't have to be a long, serious conversation. I'm the doctor, you're a patient. No, you just sit down with them and you just relax and have a 1 to 5 minute conversation with them. And in that time, you can honestly create a relationship and they can sense your sincerity. They can sense what's going on with them. They know that you are truly interested in them and they start to trust you immediately. Now, you have to respect that and honor that trust. You cannot take advantage of it. That is wrong and that's immoral. But as long as you use it to build a relationship and give the patient what they want, you solve a problem for them and you provide a solution for them and you do it with all sincerity and honesty with them, you're going to win. So this type of thing, Marilee, tells me that niche dentistry in 2021 moving forward, I've always thought niche dentistry was a great place to be. And so that's why I emphasize my practice in the lifestyle dentistry. But right now, even more so, it's trust and relationships. You want to build a practice, start working on trust and relationships. And if they have any questions to how to do that, Marilee, guess where they can go?
They come to us. Come to us. We're happy to help them ask those questions and
They
happy
can
to help
come
them
to
get
us
hyper focused. Absolutely.
because this does not need to be a year-long journey and they don't need to spend $60,000, $70,000 figuring out how to do it. We can have an hour or two conversation with people and show them and help them learn. And I don't want to hear from people that say, number one, I don't have time. And number two is, I don't think I can do that. You do have time. And yes, you can do it. You can change if you wish. And it's a choice. And so I just love what lies out there ahead in 2021 for people. I love the opportunities that are out there, the choices that we have, and just make the choice. This type of dentistry I can share with you from experience is so much fun. It is just a blast to get up in the morning and know that you're going to go into your office and you're going to develop a new relationship with new patients. And you don't need more than 2 or 3 new patients a day maximum with this kind of approach with relationship dentistry to where you can be producing numbers far beyond what you ever imagined or thought you could. But the main thing is, Mary, is the satisfaction in your heart that you have, that you know you have made a difference in someone's life. And it may be a mother who she's a single mom, she has 4 children and she's struggling in life. She comes in and says, please help me. I want to become and be the mother that I know my children deserve. And you change her life, and then she changes the lives of her 4 children. But you've developed a relationship and you have gained a new friend. How much fun. And oh, by the way, your staff is happy, you are highly productive, and you're highly profitable, and you're having fun with your business of dentistry.
I don't think there could be anything better than that, Dr. John. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your insight, for teaching us about the power of letting go and also capturing opportunity by focusing, hyper focusing on those patient relationships and those patient experiences. I love that.
Yeah. So if any of you have any further questions or you want to connect with Marilee and I, down at the bottom on the details our website and our email address. And just don't hesitate to get a hold of us. We'd love to work with you and talk with you and see how you're going to pivot in your life. So until next meeting, have a great day.